This is a perfect gift for young ones in your life or not so young ones that like a beautiful story as well. As it is Good Shepherd Sunday, we have two texts that revolve around shepherding, of which there are many in the scriptures. This morning is Psalm 23. And I apologize if the words here don't match the ones that you know. So hear in the words that fill your soul. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no evil. For you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord my whole life long. And then from the Gospel of John in the 10th chapter, that is the end of the story, really, of the man born blind. I don't know if you remember that story where a man was born blind and Jesus comes and says, go into and dip yourself in the pool of the Siloam and then you'll be healed. And people were like, how did he get unblind? Wasn't he blind from birth? Then how did that happen? And they argue with him. And they argue with Jesus, and they say, it can't happen. And so Jesus continues the conversation from chapter 9 into chapter 10. And he tries to give them imagery that will help with their unseeing. I assure you that whoever doesn't enter into the sheep pen through the gate, but climbs over the wall, is a thief and an outlaw. The one who enters through the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The guard at the gate opens the gate for him, and the sheep listen to his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. Whenever he has gathered all of his sheep, he goes before them and they follow him because they know his voice. They won't follow a stranger, but will run away because they don't know the stranger's voice. Those who heard Jesus use this analogy didn't understand what he was saying. I am the gate. So Jesus spoke again. I assure you that I am the gate of the sheep. All who came before me were thieves and outlaws, but the sheep didn't listen to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. They will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief enters only to steal, kill, and destroy. I came so that they could have life. Indeed, so they could live life to the fullest. May these words add a blessing to our lives this day. Psalm 23 terrified her. Growing up, my friend Barbara memorized many, many scriptures, and I remember her telling me that she loved lots of them, and she loved most of the 23rd Psalm, but she was a little girl when she memorized it before she could read. She said, I didn't mind the valley of the shadow of death. That was the word she used, or the darkest valley. What she really minded was the girl at the end of the whole thing, that surely goodness. She was going to follow her all the time, and she just did not want to be followed by surely goodness. She didn't know surely goodness. Well, eventually she realized, once she could read, that surely goodness and surely goodness were not quite the same thing. But the surely goodness in Psalm 23 is an attribute of God. So she relaxed. And eventually she became my friend and mentor in Christian education. And whenever I hear the 23rd Psalm, and I do a lot of funerals for folks around the world and around the community, and a lot of times people don't have scripture at hand that they know, and we'll do the 23rd Psalm. That's like the fallback, right? And whenever I hear it, I sort of smile to myself. As I did this morning and did this week as I read it again. And as I was doing my reading during the week, I learned that the Hebrew word for follow, so surely goodness will follow me, is pursue. an equally valid translation. How does it feel to be followed? That might not be so bad. How does it feel to be pursued? Has a different energy to it, doesn't it? I think it's interesting that pursue, which is not the word we're used to, has a deliberate action and an energy behind it, and sense of relentlessness. I could follow you someplace, sure. I'll follow you to the store. But if I'm pursuing you, I am intentional in my action. And if that's true, then what might that mean for the psalm and for Jesus, who calls us to enter the sheepfold through the gate and listen to his voice? I think looking at the word as pursued illuminates the nature of God's love for us. God's just not going to follow us around. God pursues us. God's love for us is relentless. No matter where we go, how we go, right? God is always looking for us, calling us by name, welcoming us in, and claiming us as God's own. This matters as we read the psalm in the light of the world we live in today. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. What a delight. What a delightful line. To have everything taken care of. What is it to not want? In this case, I said to not need. To have everything wonderful for you. How amazing would it be if everyone in the world could say that line and have it be true? Just one line of all Scripture and have it be true. The world would be changed. I have all that I want. If we believe these words for ourselves and we believe that God is the creator of the universe, which you know I do, then God is Lord of all and is the one who cares for all, loves for all, provides for all of creation and all the people in the world, whether they know God or Jesus or not. Can we rest for a moment in that one line? The Lord is my shepherd. I have all that I want. Just for a moment, have that be your truth. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in right paths for his name's sake. This is idyllic. All the good things and all your needs are met, and God restores our soul. Restoration. Restoring. I love the word restoration when you break it down. Restoring. Retelling the story of who and whose we are. And if our lives, to tell the story of our lives, and when that happens, when we hear God, whether it's a thundering voice that we can't ignore, or the persistent whisper of the Spirit that works on our hearts and minds until we shift to see the world that is a world of abundance and not scarcity, a world in which all are the beloved of God, what happens then to the rest of the world when we hear and see that abundance and benevolent nature of who God is? We're led in right paths, it says. Another way to translate that is in paths of justice, not for our good, not for our own benefit, but for the benefit of all to have a beautiful life. Now, you and I live in the 21st century, and we know that justice, that justice word, can be manipulated for the benefit of some and the detriment of others. And while all the time sounding like it's really good for everybody. So we are invited to tell a different story, to be restored, to seek justice that is life-giving and supportive of the gifts of God for all God's people, and to balance creation so that all can thrive. If we follow this prayer of the psalmist, to know that God will provide all that we need, green pastures, still water, and will give us the opportunity to tell our story again, to not be bound by what was given to us, but to be able to come to a new understanding of who we are, that is amazing. Is it easy? Is the psalmist crazy? I don't think so, because then the psalmist says, even though I walk through the darkest valley or the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Is restoration easy? Is restoring your own life easy? Absolutely not. It takes us out of our comfort zone. And it challenges us to take all the bits and pieces of our life and lay them out, expose them in their fullness, and see which ones we claim, which ones bring us life, which ones we should let go of. That's hard work, challenging work. And for some people, and sometimes it feels like you're in the valley and there is darkness all around you. I only pray that you can hear the word that God is with you, that God desires good for you, good for us, that God will protect our hearts and reach out when we are lost. These words help us do the work of love even when we're afraid. And I give thanks for that, because there are many times that I engage in the work of ministry, and I do that alongside with you, and there are times when we are afraid. We have no certainty how it's going to turn out. We are embarking in new territory. But your rod and your staff, they comfort me. God will not abandon us in the midst of that. You prepare a table for me in the presence of my enemy. The table that God prepares is always a table of welcome and opportunity. It's a table spread with joy and with the bounty of the earth and the possibility of more than we can imagine. But I wonder about this table that's prepared in the presence of mine enemies. Is this table one at which I can break old patterns and reshape a future that can be sustained and flourished for everyone? What does this table look like between you and your enemy? Those who have hurt you, abandoned you, destroyed your life. Are you able to sit there and know that even if you cannot forgive them, because sometimes, try as we might, there are people and situations in our life that we simply can't forgive. I don't know about you. That happened in my life. There are situations where I just can't get there. But I trust that God can. And I let God do that forgiving. What does it mean if we take the individual nature of the pronouns in this psalm out and make it more collective? The psalms were written and read for corporate worship. They were not written as a private devotional, even though it's lots of I words in there, I's and me's. And we use them as personal devotion, and I encourage that, but they're written for corporate worship. You prepare a table before us in the presence of our enemies. Can we take time to consider who our enemies are? Who are our enemies? And why do we feel that way about them? Think who are the people you would say are our enemies. Are they people from another country who hold a different political position? Are they those who cheer for the other team? Any Bears fans? Right? Are they people whose lifestyles we don't understand and therefore condemn? Are they from a different religion or a cultural practice? In my experience, it's much easier to identify the enemy when I don't think about why they are the enemy. What brought them, that person or that group, to the position they hold? What is their story? And can knowing that story help us restore and restory our lives? The psalmist goes on to say, you anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. I believe that when God calls us into community, God anoints us. I mark you on Ash Wednesday with stardust. You have come to stardust. You will return. Jeremy, thank you for remembering that. I hope when you wash your head in the morning, just do that to yourself. Just give yourself a blessing. Stardust, you have come. To stardust, you will return. You are already marked and anointed and blessed by God to do the work of loving. Struggling with the division, struggling with our personal, political, communal division, so that we might live into the generous, overflowing nature of God. My cup overflows. Here we are back at those words. Surely goodness and mercy. She will pursue us all the days of our life. God is relentless. And that's a good thing. God is relentless and does not give up on our capacity to change or grow or open ourselves to others or care compassionately or to seek justice and to love deeply. Yes, goodness and mercy, surely goodness, whoever she is, will follow you all the days of your life. You cannot escape that presence. The pursuit or the demands on our lives that everyone lives well. The psalm closes with, I shall dwell in the house of the Lord my whole life. Let's just hear the first line. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. On that day when you can't figure anything out, when it doesn't make sense, when whatever is whatever, just those two lines. Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. I shall dwell in the house of the Lord my whole life long. That's the goal, to live in the house of God, to abide in the dwelling place of God for you and me and for all people. Psalm 23 is echoed in the words of John when Jesus calls us to be his own, to come into the sheepfold, to come in and go out living in a way of justice and peace and hope and possibility. We pray this every time we worship together, don't we? Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. I pray that that's our reality. But one might wonder, what does that look like here? Is surely goodness anywhere around? Well, she has been at work. And the result of this relentless pursuit looks like the work we're doing with the Refugee Resettlement Project. When we consider the lives of those who find themselves as refugees, we can imagine the dark valleys they have been in. But when we also take time to give thanks for the abundance in our life, the abundance of resources, time, hope, compassion, and love. We had to, and I think we will continue to have to, consider what makes them refugees. The family that we're working with is people from the Rohingya community, and that community is from Myanmar. For old people, Burma. Because Myanmar is the new name for that country. They didn't just wake up one morning and become refugees. Gee, what thing could I do for today? What career could I have? Someone made them refugees. People made them refugees. People made the choices about their identity that made them not have an identity. One of the women on our team was talking to me yesterday, and she goes, I just don't know who these people are. And I said, that's the goal of whoever it was. People, real people, breathing, living, choice-making people who said, you have no identity. The people who are here now, the family of 11, have received their very first ever identification. They have never existed legally in the world before they arrived here. They didn't do this to themselves. The actions of people and governments impact these people in ways that are beyond their control. And where and how we have to consider, might we as a nation be complicit or not? How do our political policies impact global geopolitical landscape? What have we done or not done politically? Not that you and I are sitting there going rolling the dice politically, but what does it look like? And then how do we work for justice and wholeness as we wrestle with these questions of who and how are people made to be refugees? It's a policy. It's a choice that people make. How do we wrestle with that? And then how do we give thanks for the power of God to restore their lives? We don't get to do that, but give opportunity that they might restore their lives, to find a new way and a new entrance into their own identity as a human being. No one has their fingerprints either. Wednesday, a group of folks gathered outside the apartment that the family resides in, and you know who was there? No one saw her. Who was there? Shirley Goodness. Shirley Goodness was right there. You know it. She was right there. She was right there in the midst of us. And you know what Shirley Goodness was like? You guys got this. And you know what we said to each other, standing there in front of that apartment building, is we have never done this before, or at least not for some of us ever, some for a very, very long time, and we were afraid. We were afraid, not like the fear that this family has endured, but afraid that we would mess it up somehow, that we would make a faux pas that was culturally inappropriate, that we wouldn't know what to do or how to do it, we wouldn't have enough. You know what Shirley Goodness said in all our ears? You are already enough. God has pursued you to this place. And God will be with you. Remember the rod and the staff? They comfort you. Do it afraid. Turn around and look for Shirley Goodness every now and then. She'll be right there. When we met the family, the hospitality, the welcome was overwhelming. To see them in a place where their lives can be restored. Will they ever become Christian? That is not our goal. Not our goal at all. Our goal is only to love, to provide opportunity for them to be restored into their wholeness, and in so doing, restore ourselves. We will grow and change in our encounter with this family, and they will help us live it out. And I really give thanks for Shirley. She's wonderful. May she pursue you too, so that you will always know the goodness and the grace and the love of God, so that when you find yourself ready to do that thing, whether it's to forgive, whether it's to take an action, whether it's to examine your own life, surely goodness and mercy will follow you there. They will bless you and they will keep you. So may Shirley be a companion on all of your journeys this day. May she help us make the reality of the psalm true. The Lord is my shepherd. I have all that I want. Amen. And in response, I have another version of the 23rd Psalm to share with you, a sung version arranged by